What is going on, guys? Joey Franzo here at Flex Training Systems. It is October 2nd. We are like 2 weeks out from Nationals. I'll be there in less than 2 weeks, probably like 10 days. And today we're talking about taking risks. We're talking about taking risks in competition and in training and just fucking in life in general. Um, what made me think of this was, we have the primetime rosters coming up. And there's recently a post put out by USAPL saying that if you're in the top seven, that you might want to consider emailing them if you entered another division to try to see if you can make it in the open primetime. Um, and I'm ranked eighth, so I thought about it and I was just like, that'd be that'd be kind of funny if I missed it by one slot. Um, but how did I get in this position in the first place? Well, it all goes back to the Arnold. Now, I don't compete very frequently, so when I do compete, I don't really get the opportunity to take risks or chances. The Arnold was kind of a special meet because I was on fire that day. I hit PRs on every lift. I had completed 8 lifts, and I had already PR'd all 3 lifts. So I thought to myself, I can go for 1900. It's 5 kilos more than what I feel that I have. But I thought it was close enough to just say fuck it and take it, right? I historically never do anything like that. I never get to send it. So I was just like, you know what? Put your soul into it and try to lift it. I tried to put 683 on the bar and pull it to total 1900. But I ended up getting the bar slowed down enough on my thighs to where I had to do like a very small baby hitch, but it wasn't clean enough. So I ended up not getting the lift, which I completely am okay with that decision. I was in the moment. I wasn't really sure if I should go for it or not, and then Tina kind of believed in me. So I just said, you know what, fuck it, let's just do it. It's no one's fault but my own. But because of that, now I'm in eighth place. I might still make it into prime time. No harm done. We should find out by Friday or Monday, I would say at the latest. If I don't make it, then no big deal. I don't make it. I'm just gonna go full, just really focus on my coaching, hit my total that I need for the Arnold, and then just focus on having a big meet at the Arnold. But that's for me, and I'm perfectly okay living with that decision. Maybe I'm one of those. I mean, I've done prime time many times. I'm not, it's not like a first time thing for me. If you're one of those people that really, 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 really wanted to do prime time and you ended up doing something similar to what I did, you might be crushed finding out that they only took top seven and you were ranked eighth or whatever. But essentially, whenever you're in a competition, it happens every meet. People try to YOLO their third deadlift, right? All the time. People are always constantly trying to just send it, right? You have to understand that when you do send it like that, there's always a risk that you could miss, and if you do miss, there may or may not be consequences, right? There's potential injury, right? You could get hurt, and now you have an injury that you're dealing with, and it just ends up screwing you over. Um, there's a lot of things that could potentially happen. Maybe you don't place how you want to place. Maybe you don't get into prime time. Maybe you don't make your qualifications for nationals. Maybe they introduce a new competition and everybody that's in a certain category gets to do it and everybody else can't. It just all depends. Um, it depends on the person. It depends on the scenario. At the end of the day, if you make that decision to YOLO that lift, to send it, to do whatever, and you just got to understand, like, I think people think about taking the YOLO lift and how it would feel if they got it, but they're not thinking about, oh, fuck, what happens if I don't get it, right? So, I try not to think negative thoughts, right? I try not to think about that reality, but it is foolish, in my opinion, to not fully understand the possibility that you could absolutely miss the lift and you will have to live with that outcome regardless of whether you make it or not. There's a My Hero Academia quote that goes, when the enemy becomes certain of their victory, that's when we'll have a chance. Basically, just meaning, if you are so tunnel visioned on the fact that, like, there's no way I can lose, like, I'm gonna win, like, da 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 da, but you don't have that kind of all-seeing, watchful eye on the whole situation as a whole. You don't have a firm grasp of the possibility that Adversity is always lurking around the corner, and if you get too tunnel visioned and you don't, consider everything, then you could fuck up. It just leaves the door open, right? If you if you're just so ignorant to think that you can get this lift and not consider the technical problems that happen, it's just out of your range. Maybe you've never hit that lift in the gym before, then it's possible that you put in that lift and you don't get it, and now you barely miss nationals. You don't qualify for a certain meet or whatever. You got to live with this decision that you make, right? This also applies, to training. And when you're in training, let's use 12 weeks as, for explanation purposes. Let's say you have 12 weeks to train, and for whatever reason you start your training your first 4 weeks and you're using a close grip bench and you're squatting in flats, right? And let's say you deadlift conventional. Now you watch some person on Instagram and you see them hit a big lift, like squatting in heels and pulling sumo, and let's say they have a wide grip bench, right? Now for whatever reason you change all of your lifts to kind of match that person, and then maybe 2 weeks out from a competition you find out, damn, like I'm really not responding to these changes like I thought I would. um, I have a hard time stabilizing the bench with the wide grip. Maybe you're sumo, you have a lot of knee pain and you just can't hit a lot of volume, whatever, right? You find out that the changes that you made are not working. Now you're in an awkward position where you made these changes, you're here now, there's not really much you can do about it because you're already this far in. You took a risk, right? You took a risk. You changed all your stances because you thought that it could put you in a position to lift more. Going back to our previous example, right? You thought victory was certain. You're like, oh, if I change my lifts to do this, I'll lift that much more weight. I'll be that much better on the platform. And now you're finding out when it's too late that risk, that bet that you made, it didn't come true, right? You realize, you know what? Hey, I was better off the way that I was before. It becomes very obvious to you, and now you try to switch back, and you know now you're in this weird situation where you wasted like 6 weeks training a stance that you shouldn't have been, right? Not to say that you can't benefit from doing things like that, but just for the sake of this, let's say you didn't. Um, that's kind of what happens when you have that tunnel vision, and you need to. They always say that you never really realize what you have until it's gone, right? And that in this example, you never really realize how great you had it with your other stances, with your other technique, until you had to kind of try the other way to kind of really get it clear in your mind that this is what you should be doing. I try to live my life every day very thankful for the things I have right in front of me. So, I'm constantly reminding myself, I'm so lucky that I can train my squats the way that I can, or that I figured out. I'm so thankful that I figured out how to train my deadlift in a way that doesn't compromise my quality of life. I'm thankful that I have very healthy shoulders and that I can bench press with minimal pain and whatnot. I'm thankful for the people in my life. I'm thankful for the community that I built, blah, 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 blah. So, sometimes you got to kind of go through it to really realize what you have. I would try to avoid that at all costs because, it always sucks. Maybe you're in a relationship with someone and you leave that person, and then you kind of like miss them. That's always a shitty feeling, but it is what it is. But anyway, we're talking about lifting here. Yes. So don't change your stance. You take a risk when you do things like that. A lot of you guys are taking these risks, cutting weight. That's actually a great example. Let's say you say, "Oh, I want to cut 15 pounds and compete in a lower weight class or something," right? And you're already a small lifter. The time that you spend in a caloric deficit, you could have been in a caloric surplus, which could have been setting you up for a better future. But instead, you kind of wanted to compete down, and that ends up taking time away from you just being like, if you're gonna place the same in either class, you might as well just be in the bigger class and not have to worry about a cut. You know what I'm saying? So that's a risk. When you decide to diet down, you're giving something up to try to gain something else. And if you live with that decision, right? Like at the end of the day, guys, like life is about living and learning, right? There's no shame in learning from your mistakes. As long as you learn from your mistakes, you can always get better. You can always improve, and you can always not make old. There's so many things that I used to do when I got into lifting, like mistakes I used to make that I don't make now. And I'm so thankful that I went through them because it helped me get to where I am faster. I was talking to a young Dion the other day at the gym, 21 years old, a becoming 74 kg lifter. And I told him when I was 21, I didn't have someone like a Joey there to guide me. I didn't have anyone to. The entire state of powerlifting did not exist in the way that it did. There was no one at that time that I think ever existed that could have taught me the things that I've come to learn. Because there's just everything about powerlifting right now is so different, and I think people are learning and evolving. And I don't think it was. I think what I wanted and what I have now just didn't exist back then. Um, almost ten years ago, we didn't have the information that we have now on the internet. We didn't have the knowledge that we have and the experiences that we have. We've never had raw lifters lifting to this capacity before ever. Um, so I just and then he told me today, like, randomly, how much he appreciates me and things like that, and it just made me feel like it's nice to be there for someone. Obviously, he's not the only one, but be there for someone that I can help them avoid taking these risks, right? That I had to go through, dealing with injuries, dealing with all these fucking setbacks and shit like that. I'm great now. I'm in a great place when it comes to my lifting, but just being able to avoid those decisions that you may have to live with, forever sometimes. It's a good thing. So this video is kind of like it's not a warning. It's just like, take a step back and look at yourself objectively. Really look at what you're doing and understand that every decision you make has a consequence. If you're willing to live with that consequence, great. If you can't, I mean, then don't take the risk, right? Um, yeah, it's all about reflection, looking at yourself in the mirror, and just really understanding what you're doing and what could happen if you go for that YOLO lift, if you change your stance, if you decide to cut weight, all those things. You know what I'm saying? If you change food choices, if you decide to stay up late, how is that going to affect you moving forward? Um, Again, everything is learning experience. At the end of the day, just remember that you can always live to fight another day. And like I said, if you can learn from it, you're going to be good to go. A little bit shorter of a video today, but I just kind of wanted to bring that out. We should have, like I said, we should have the roster. I doubt we'll have it by tonight, but it should be tomorrow, or maybe by Friday or Monday for primetime rosters and flights, which is great because then I can start planning. I have to train when I'm out there and shit like that. I know a lot of you guys are very excited to watch Raw Nationals. I'm sure I'll be posting the link to that everywhere. Um, if you made it this far, let me get a stay objective. Stay objective in the comments below. To those of you that have been tuning into the Twitch streams, I appreciate you guys very much. I think we're building a nice community over there. All that information is down below. I do stream my lifting. The streams are a way for me to connect with you guys, and you guys can actually see someone that's experienced train. You can take from what I'm doing in the moment, and you can ask me questions to kind of help you through whatever you're going through. It's been very useful for a lot of people, and it's been a fun experience for me just kind of having you guys hang out with me as we send it, right? Because we're getting heavy now, getting heavy leading into nationals. So thank you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next one. Peace.